this is when I realized that I was going to die.
Wow.
Because I finally, I guess in a sense, gave life.
Wow.
And so like the full cycle is like I've given life and then I will die.
All I see is blessings on blessings, yeah. I see the blessings coming our way, our way, our way. Blessings on blessings.
Ashley! Oh my goodness.
I know.
Welcome to the Cool Mom Code podcast. We are so excited to have you here.
Thank you for having
You
me.
are probably the first new mom
Uh-oh.
that I am interviewing.
Woot woot for the new moms. One time
Woot
for the new
woot.
moms. The
I'm
pandemic
telling you.
moms. The new moms.
For real, the pandemic moms.
Definitely.
Like, that's a real deal.
Yep.
Okay, but before we get into all that mama stuff,
Okay.
because that is just obviously a part of you now, and it is very interesting, and we want to hear all about it. I
Yeah.
want to take it back though, because
Ooh.
I want us to know a little bit about who you are, and just so you know, the Cool Mom Co podcast for us is just a place where we are inspiring moms, right? But we are also like showing that even though you're a mom, you're still this dope human being who are
Yeah.
doing things in the world, and you can make a difference, and you could be cool, and you can still have your own like thing going and your own craft. And really it's just like to encourage and inspire moms, right? That like, just because you're a mom don't mean that's all you are. Like, you are still the amazing person that you've always been. And here are some dope moms doing some dope shit.
Yeah.
So you are a dope mom now doing some dope shit from before, as
I
always.
think. I
You
think.
are.
I don't know.
You have officially crossed over into the Cool Mom Code club.
Yes.
And so let's take it back to the beginning though. And like, I just want to talk about, you are literally a fitness expert. Like,
Yeah.
if you've known a fitness expert, then you don't even know. This Ashley is like goals upon goals upon goals. Even sitting here today, everyone who's listening, okay, she is literally had the baby, what, 4.5 months ago?
Yes.
And not that we're doing a whole body thing,
I
but she is
know.
in shorts that are tight. She's in a little crop top, long sleeve, cute shirt. She has her little sports bra on underneath and this little tiny tummy. But that's not the point. The point
Yeah.
is that you literally like take care of your body so much, and this is like your field.
Yeah.
But like, how did you get into fitness in the first place?
I would have to just say and give it to sports.
You were an
Yeah.
athlete.
An athlete.
What was your sport?
I ran track and field at University of Rhode Island.
Oh.
And sports was always my thing. I did gymnastics, I did soccer, I did tennis, and track was the thing that got me to college.
Yeah.
And so running, and once I left university and went into the real world, it was like, it was hard, you know?
But what did you study? So you're at school, you're running track. That's what got you into college in the first place. So what?
Yeah.
But what are you studying at school?
I studied psychology and communication studies. I first wanted to be a therapist and guidance counselor.
Okay.
And I found out really early on that's really hard to get into guidance counseling. They pretty much stay, like the guidance counselors stay. So there's not a lot of open positions.
So it's like they do
Yeah.
tenure. So it's like their time just keeps going on. Yeah. Right.
And yeah, it's not a big
Not a
turnover
turnover.
rate. And then also like there's only so many anyways. So
Right.
I had to be like, okay, what am I going to do?
Plot
And-
change. Plot twist. Okay.
Yeah. And no matter what job I had, I always kind of reverted back to the sports mentality, fitness, and then me physically, I would say, quote unquote, like kind of lost myself in the normal job of going out for happy hour, staying out late, partying with my girls in Hollywood. And all of a sudden I was like,
You were out there in them streets, girl.
yeah, you know, I guess, well, back in like 2012, we didn't really have a name. There wasn't like, you know, it was just like YOLO. YOLO was like the biggest thing that kind of came out at the time.
But you were young. You were
I was just living my life. I was
That's
enjoying life. I
Yeah.
was living my life, living my best life, which I think is important for everyone to do.
And every stage.
You don't need to have a strict regimen or follow anything particular. Like, just live your life. Because if you live your life, it's going to guide you to exactly where you need to be. You
I
know?
love that.
I would never have lost myself. I would have never, you know.
Found yourself, girl.
The thing was, it was like I was at the gym and someone came up to me and was like, oh, did you used to do like a sport or was an athlete? And I was like, used to? And I was like, oh, no, I never want to look like I used to anything, you know?
Yeah.
And I was only probably 23 at the time.
Wow.
I mean, that's not a long distance from like exiting as a Division I track and field athlete.
Yeah.
So I was like, nope. And so I just...
It's not for me. Hold on, wait a minute.
Yeah, I just kind of got back into working out, fitness, getting into it, documenting it on Instagram, kind of holding myself accountable. And then I realized like I can make like a career.
This is a big point for me, holding yourself accountable. Yes. Because I'm going to be honest with you. So my history, like I've always been very active. I've never played Division I sports at a school.
You don't have to.
And if you listen to my husband Issa, he'll be like, girl, you are not an athlete because you've never played Division I sports at school.
No.
So Issa's like always like, no, don't even claim that. But I feel like I've always been an active person. However, holding yourself accountable is like a real thing. How do you
discipline.
Discipline. How do you go from, because Division I athlete, you have a schedule. You have to be there at a certain time. You have to do 2-a-days. You are required to blah, 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 whatever, in between your schoolwork. Like you are, like you have a strict kind of, But like once you're out of that and you're in the workforce or you're in the real world, let's just say, and you're YOLOing around town
all day, every day,
then
how Monday through
Sunday. How do you hold yourself? How do you make that switch to now hold yourself accountable outside of that environment?
I mean, as an athlete, I just went from like out of season, in season. Okay. Right. So like my YOLO life was like, all right, it's summer break or maybe Christmas break or whatever. Whenever you get a quote unquote break, don't really get a break when you're a Division I athlete. There's always something to do.
No.
But I just looked at it as like, that was that period. And then now let's go in. And I always take I wouldn't say like my workouts or my routine or my programming, but I always think of it as an athlete and in a season.
Right.
There's an off season and there's in season.
Okay.
There's peaking, there's preseason, there's postseason. And so I think of that in general as
just like in your day-to-day life.
Into day-to-day, even with my clients. Like if there's a time where they're going on vacation or it's down, I go, it's fine. Like you can't be on all the time. This is preseason or this is vacation time. We're just fine tuning. We're doing this. I don't make any of my clients feel like they have to be on point at all times. Nobody is.
Yeah.
Unless obviously, you're Kobe, LeBron, but even them, we see them, right? The elite athletes, we see them drop.
But you have to give them some sort of consistency. So although it's like peak season, which I love that. Like I love that theory on it because it takes some of the pressure out of the every day you have to go so hard.
No, you don't.
So the peak season, the preseason, the postseason,
and then vacation, you have to rest.
Yeah.
Rest and relaxing is allowing your body to regenerate your cells and muscles. When you work out, like you're tearing your muscles, right?
Yes.
And the fibers need to come back together.
See, let me just tell you something though about athletes, and I feel like because I'm married to like someone who is very sports heavy and serious into fitness, I feel like y'all always come with some sports analogy on life. Like if I tell you how many times this man has told me like life is like sports, and basically like you always, so I kind of relate to that when you say it, but I love the idea of like the peak and post and like pre, especially when it comes to like your workouts. All right, so you're working out, you're doing your thing, you're in your rhythm now you're from Division I athlete, you're in the real world, and now fitness has come back into your life. You're like, I'm an athlete like always and forever, and I want my body to reflect that. How do you go from that now to wanting to share that with people, not just on Instagram and social?
Oh, I don't know if I ever thought about when that huge transition happened. Honestly, I would have to say like I prayed a lot for guidance on what to do. Being a woman, a single woman, living my best life, YOLOing in LA.
Girl, this whole YOLOing.
I know. I mean, I'm 35. That was our thing. That's what we said. You know, I prayed a lot. I mean, I found a church probably like 2011, which I still attend the same church. And at that time, it really spoke to me. It was very applicable.
Right.
Of taking a verse and applying it to life, and not really being lost or anything, but maybe just like trying to find your way.
Right.
So I was like, you know what, like. I prayed a lot. I asked, God to remove people who shouldn't be in my life, bring people into my life that will guide me.
That's right.
And honestly, that's what happened. I mean, all of the people that I met the stories are just like random. Like, oh, I literally, yes, I was YOLOing. I was at the club with my cousin, and like, you know, he brings back this girl, and I'm like, what are you doing? And she happened to like work for Nike, and I'm like,
wow.
oh, so that was like my first like little connecting with like with Nike. But obviously we met outside of like the club,
right?
And,
outside,
you know, I was who I was, and she was like, okay, let's see what we can do. And so honestly, I always give it to God.
Do you feel like you gave it to God and you kind of manifested it in your life?
Oh, without a doubt.
Yeah.
I mean, I manifested it so much to the point even today that I'm like, is this really my life?
That's a big thing though. You know, like that's really huge. I think that, you know, people always talk about, and I always have these debates with people, and I've had these like conversations with my friends too. Manifesting is sometimes, I don't even think sometimes you realize you're doing it. Especially when it's something that you believe in so much, right? I think like manifestation is something like, you know, I think you can do it obviously good and bad.
Yes.
And I think that especially women, I think that we sometimes forget the power of our thought is so important.
Yes.
And the power of who is feeding us as well. So whether that be a partner, friendships, parents, you know, girlfriends, whatever it is, the power that you have around you too of what you're feeding, listening to on TV, all that stuff, it feeds into your psyche so much and what you're manifesting out into the world.
And what you see, right?
Right.
Everyone looks at one thing and like, oh, I see those yellow flowers. And one person's like, oh, I see that dog taking a crap.
Correct.
And you're like, what? I didn't see that. You know, at all.
Yes.
So like that was like part of that prayer of like, please remove anyone that's in my life right now. Because I knew I didn't have the power.
Right.
I didn't. You know, like I knew where I was at, like mentally, spiritually, all that. Like I didn't have the power to be like, hey, you know, we shouldn't, like, you're not adding, I'm subtracting, or, you know, anything like that. And so it just started, and things started, you know, pivoting and moving and out of my control, that I was just like, I kept surrendering every single time, or an opportunity came. I was just like, all right, I can do it. I guess I can do it. I could do this. I can, you know, and I just stepped into it and believed.
So you went from showing it on Instagram, your personal workouts, what you're doing, things that touched you or ways that, you know, helped your body, into now training your clients. That transition is a big one, but talk to me a little bit about like that shift on when you're working out for yourself. I think it's one thing. When you now start training other people, that's another thing. So tell me, has there been crazy experiences that you've had with people where you're like, yo, you know what? I can't do this. Or yo,
like
this
a
is
client
wild.
that we didn't
just like.
Well, I think one thing that was, I don't know exactly who told me this, and I apologize if you're listening, you're like, I said it, but you don't have to take on every client, and you don't have to train every person that approaches you.
Right.
So as a trainer, you kind of pick your client just as your client picks you.
Right.
You need to be able to connect, to mesh. They're going to be consistent. And so I've been super blessed. At one point, I literally was just training all Black women in the industry, like a writer, a producer, an actor. And again, it doesn't matter who they are, right, in the industry. It just happened to be at that moment in time. That's what it was.
Right.
And then again, I've had opportunities come in the pandemic pivot. Like I was supposed to be a trainer just kind of down the street at this one place called Performance House, and the pandemic cut it. You know, it doesn't exist anymore. And so I was hoping that would just open a door for myself to be, you know, in a gym all the time with other amazing trainers to learn and to see and to
grow.
Yeah, exactly. Right. It's all about growing and learning all the time. Always be,
and surrounding yourself, surrounding yourself with like-minded people. Yeah.
And another opportunity.
Exactly.
You know, so right now it's like, I would just have to say that I've never had a really bad experience with a client, because
that is good.
Yeah. I mean, I'm also myself, right? I'm really like straightforward and I'm really this, but with a gentle approach. And I think it's really important to meet anyone and clients and everyone where they're at. Right. So it's like, if they come to me and they want to, I always try to get my clients to like run. Like, you're going to run a half marathon with me. You're going to run a marathon with me. You're going to do this. I'm like, what? And then finally,
I'm totally looking sideways right now. I'm like,
you can find the joy in that, like, if you see it as pain,
Right.
but in that challenge.
Right.
And that's the thing, that every time I meet a client and we're training, I want to challenge them. I want to push them. Like, there are no limitations and no boundaries.
Right.
Like, you can do anything.
I love that. I mean, I really do. I think that applies to really everything. And you have a quote. You have anything the mind can conceive and believe, it can achieve.
Yeah.
And that's something, like, when I read that about you, I was like, oh, okay.
Yes.
Anything that the mind can conceive and believe, it can achieve. So if you can think it, you can achieve it.
Yeah.
It's possible for you. Like, where did that quote even come from?
Yeah, so I was about to say, like, oh, I remember when that was. I was in college, actually. My senior year was the roughest. Well, I wouldn't say the roughest. Like, college was really rocky for me, but my last semester was tough. I lost a cousin. My mom got pneumonia. She also has lupus, so pneumonia is, like, really life-threatening.
Scary, yeah.
I got strep throat for the first time.
Wow.
And I had track meets every week. Like, I ran the day before I graduated at University of Rhode Island. I was in New Jersey the night before.
Wow.
My family was like my rock. Danae was there as well.
Yeah.
And I think Beja.
Yeah.
Shout out to Beja. And so, like, it came at that moment where I needed to truly, truly believe. Like, it was my last hoorah. I was a senior, and everything was crumbling around me. A lot of things were happening that I couldn't control.
Right.
I didn't even know if I was going to graduate because I had set myself up so beautifully. Like, I literally only had 3 classes. I was under, like, I had to sign a paper that I could still be a collegiate athlete, because you have to have a full schedule in order to still participate. So I had set myself up so well that I was like, how is this happening? Like, I'm supposed to be just chilling this semester.
It's supposed to be a breeze.
But again, I did it for a reason, right? If I had a harder schedule, it could have been even tougher.
Right.
So I had to dig deep, and I found this quote, and I just realized, like, every time I stepped out onto the track, I had to be like, this is it. It could be my last race. It could be this. Like, you have to believe, you have to do this, and you can do it. Like, you're here. You came from a little small town of Apple Valley, and you're at University of Rhode Island. You're Division I athlete. You're the captain of this team. Like, you've made all of this happen. You can still do it.
So you feel like God and your belief in God, as well as your faith and your family, is what has helped you to, like, those sort of quotes, right?
Yes.
Really mean something.
Yes. Yeah. It's the power of yourself, you know, like, you're really, really powerful. You spend a lot of time with yourself, a lot of time in your head, you know, that. And so you can seek, you know, human approval or, you know, motivation or whatever. But I always, like, tell people, even people who have done my workouts or programs, like, oh, I thank you so much. I always say, yo, you did it.
Yeah.
Like, I didn't tell you to do those push-ups. Like, I did on a screen, but who actually physically did it? Yeah. Like, you need to give yourself credit. You can say, like, thanks, but, like, don't make me into anything bigger. Like, that's you are the person.
You know, you are giving credit to the small wins, right? Because
it's huge wins.
I'm telling you, but the small wins make up the huge wins, right? I think in my life, I always move past things. Like, I'll have a win and I'll be like, okay, great, on to the next. Yeah. Like, I never sit and, like, celebrate the moments that actually are helping to move me along or move me forward. It's always like, okay, great. Like, yes, that was a win. Awesome. Got it. But done. All right, let's keep on going. Like, what's next? And I think that the problem with that sometimes is that you're not allowing yourself to feel that energy, right? To feel that good feeling or whatever it is that helps you even have the confidence or the strength or whatever to go into your next phase, to even feel, you know, more accomplished and more, I don't know. And I think that's interesting. I love the idea of the small wins and you giving that to your clients, especially when working out. Yes. When you're changing something like your body, that's a huge thing.
I mean, I always tell people, being out of shape feels the same. It doesn't matter if you're overweight, smaller, whoever you are, old or young. Like, it hurts. It sucks. It's challenging. So, like, I understand it. You know, I think that's the beauty about being an athlete is, like, I understand it from being a kid, a teenager, a young woman. now like a woman who just had a baby. Like it's, the more experience is better. Like I know how it feels to lift something heavy. I know how it feels like to run far.
Yeah.
Like,
far as hell.
Yeah. Like I understand all of that. So like at the same time, I always feel like I'm actually not asking you to do anything that I wouldn't do.
Right.
Or I haven't done.
Right. Yeah.
So it's like I'm not like, I mean, shout out to all the parents, and we're parents, but like it's like I literally have done everything that I'm asking you.
I don't know, Ashley, though. I mean, I hear what you're saying. I'm not asking you to do anything I haven't done, but coming from like, for me, if I was your client, I'm like, yeah, but
I'm not asking you to be me though. I'm asking you to do it the way that you can. Again, remember, I'm meeting you where you're at.
That's true.
So if I'm asking you to do a push-up, I'm not saying like you have to be on your toes and da-da-da. Like, no, do a push-up.
How you would
yes,
do it. Okay.
how you
I'm comfortable
can.
with that.
Yes.
I'm like, I'm giving you a look like, hold up, okay.
No.
Because to me, I feel like you're like super strong, super athletic, super fit.
Yeah.
And so
but that's me.
Yeah.
Like I'm blessed, and I'm like, wow. I still question myself, like how.
Yeah.
I mean, I look at myself now. I'm like, wow. I was pregnant.
Okay, so let's talk about that though. Let's talk about the pregnancy journey. Let's talk about going from in like your prime. I mean, honestly, this is you and your fitness journey, and even your career in the fitness industry. Let's take it more like that.
Yeah.
Because obviously you're fit, you're dope, you are like extremely in shape. This is like your life. Mm-hmm. You are helping others to get to their best and make them feel their best.
Yes.
But you're also in like the stride of your career. Yeah. Like you're in it. You are accomplishing things. You are, people know you. Mm-hmm. You are, your clientele is growing. Like the shift to have a baby. Was that intentional? Were you planning it, or did it just kind of like happen?
It wasn't like a quote unquote planned pregnancy, if you would say. And it was tremendously at like a peak. Yeah. And I always told myself, and this is who I am as a person, right? Like I was thriving and I was doing everything because I was just living for me, right? Mm-hmm. It wasn't the be all, this is what I want to be, right? Like it wasn't that was going to, my career was going to define who I was. Mm-hmm. I ultimately always wanted to be a mom. Mm-hmm. I always wanted to have a family. Yeah. And so when that came, and especially with my partner at the time, it was like, this is what I'm going to do. This is what we're going to do. Right. And again, trust. Yes. Trust that it's going to be okay. Yeah. And that what's happening is part of the story. Yeah. And it's part of the journey. And I'm actually more of like a real private person. Mm-hmm. So I do feel at times it hindered my career because part of me was showing everything that I did in life. But part of me was like all of the fitness. And your first trimester for me personally was super, super rough. Yeah. I was very, very nauseous. I didn't really do much. My assistant would come over and I would be like, yeah, we're sitting on the couch. Yeah. And we're going to answer these emails. We're going to do this. We may go out and do like, it was tough, you know? And then just the reality of the accepting being pregnant, the accepting of like how much my life was going to change, the unknown, the pandemic. That's interesting. There's so much stuff going on.
Let's jump in on that because that's interesting. I think you're making a really good point here. It's not always like, for instance, for me, I totally agree. The first trimester, like brutal. Yes. The nausea, the fatigue, the uncomfortable, especially with first baby. Mm-hmm. Right, second baby, you're gonna be like, girl, let me use this shit. Let's go.
I hope so.
But first baby, it's a different toll on your body because it's your first. But it's the mental, especially because you're in your stride. Your career is booming. You're focused, and so it's the mental. It's about, like you said, now accepting or figuring out what that shift and. Not fearful, but being like, okay, oh yeah, what is this next chapter going to be like? How are you working through that at that time? How are you working through the mental shift?
Oh, there was a lot of things pivoted, a lot of things changed, a lot of things came out. I mean, they say all the time, like, oh, pregnancy will like uncover some things that you had no idea like about. And the one thing that came out the most that I don't think that I was like I got my stuff together. I've done the work, blah, 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 blah. And I had done the work as far as I would have to say for outward and for work and career. Okay. I knew how to speak to people. I knew how to be in a room. I knew how to be big. I knew like all that. I knew how to move.
All the things you needed to succeed in career.
For work,
right,
yeah.
Right.
But as far as being a open partner and being transparent or more like vulnerable, being a vulnerable, open partner.
Yes.
And opening up for motherhood was something, well, clearly like motherhood, but I just hadn't done. Yeah. And there was a part of me that I had not gone back to and worked on. And this pregnancy blew that door wide open.
Hadn't gone back to and worked on since when? Hadn't gone
since
back
college.
To since college.
So college, I had a really bad episode of depression, and it was triggered by my family. And when I say family, I mean immediate mom, dad, sister, right? And during college, I had a sports psychologist, and we worked on that. Right. But what happened is when I left college and life happening and YOLOing and trying to like live and
and now you're out on your own.
It was on the back burner.
Right.
Because again, what was more important?
Right.
Finding a job, so, like establishing myself,
surviving,
in career, and stuff like that.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Then all of a sudden, I get pregnant, and it's like boom.
Wow.
I go right back.
Everything opens up.
Everything came back, and I was like, oh no.
And why do you think that happens though? Do you think that happens because now you're like, okay, and now all of this that's in me, I have to now care for another human being. Yeah. Like I'm now literally growing life inside of me.
And it's family, right? Like you get pregnant and you're starting a family. So what happens is everything pivots back to family. And those were wounds that weren't closed
or healed.
And yeah, exactly. And so for me, it opened up an opportunity. I'll say an opportunity. At the time, it was like very like.
Yeah, at the time it felt crashing.
It was all over the place. But I went to anger management. Oh. And I realized.
While you're pregnant.
Yeah.
While you're pregnant and you're in anger management.
Yeah.
Yes.
I went to anger management. My partner was like, you have a lot of anger. And I'm like, what are you talking about? Right? It's like, you don't realize it. Because I'm like, what are you talking about? I am like joyful and I am this. And like, it was like, I am.
Mind you, everyone, her name is Ashley
Joi. Exactly. And that was my brand, right?
Right.
And so I'm like, what are you talking about?
Right.
Like, I don't understand. But then I realized, like, no, this is true. But anger management, the thing that I learned the most was it's not about actually the anger. It's about what's underneath the anger. So it was a lot of sadness and it was a lot of things that were unresolved.
Wow.
And so I went through that and it was pretty cool. I would say pretty cool now because during the time, I wouldn't say it was overwhelming. It was a lot. I mean, to grow a life and then to like kind of like open a wound and try to actively close it and heal it
at the same time.
A lot. And your life is changing. I'm getting bigger. We got to like move here. We got to do this. Oh, I'm still supposed to be working.
Right.
Working is so physical.
It's so physical.
I mean, it was just a lot.
I mean, to be honest with you, even for you to mentally be brave enough to, while you are going through the process of just growing life, which in itself
it's a lot,
is a huge transition. I mean, it is monumental. The different things that you're going through emotionally, just from that fact alone, from your body changing to now, you even worrying about the life of the baby, you knowing what your next chapter is going to be like, all those things. Now you took that moment and was like, hold up, before this even happens and while I'm going through this process, I need to work on me.
Yeah.
That's brave as hell.
Yeah.
That's brave as hell. And for the work of yourself and for your partner.
Yes.
That's brave.
I love my partner and I wanted our relationship and I knew that it took work, right? And I knew that I needed to do my part. Like, you can sit there and point all types of fingers, like, oh, you need to do this too, but it's like, okay, forget what they need to do. What do you need to do?
Right, because you're half of the equation.
Yeah, and I'm always going to be this child's mom.
That's right.
And I had a mom that didn't do the work. So this is also me breaking a generational curse at the same time.
Cycle.
And when you have all of that going on, you have a lot going against you.
Yeah.
Like a lot going against the grain.
I mean, there's so much here in my brain right now that we can go. I mean, I could go 5 different ways with this. I really could. I mean, but I want to tap into a couple things, because I think that I'll just say this in one category, and I could talk to you for hours, to be honest with you, because I think there's so much that we could unpack together with this. But just even the idea of within the Black community and therapy, you know, I think that I don't know if we were taught not to do it. I don't think it was celebrated, or I don't think it was encouraged per se, at least in my household and the people who I knew growing up, who happen also to be Black. So I don't know if it's a community thing that we're just not like if I ask my brothers about it, they're like, hell no, what you mean? I ain't get nobody up in my head, you know what I mean? Or whatever.
But it's also like a fear, right?
Yeah,
that
it's a fear.
is in our community.
Correct.
Because we couldn't trust doctors, and we couldn't trust a lot of professionals.
Exactly.
Because they weren't us.
Right.
And there was also like an underlying reason, right? There's a lot of studies, things that happened to our people back in the day,
right,
that we were not open to doing.
Exactly.
So I think that also is there over and over and over again.
Over time.
And until like people like us in our generation break it and actually show like you can get help and it's okay to talk,
right,
then I think it'll be a thing of the past. I think like, and also I mean a psychology major, so like that's what I wanted to do. So I knew it was important, and it helped me through college, so I understood it. Anger management was different. Like I didn't understand it, you know, but it's pretty much the same thing.
I mean, listen, I think that our generation, I will say, I'm meeting more and more men and women who are very open, and to be honest with you, are the poster child for it. They're like, yes, yes, yes. Yeah. I recommend it to everyone who listens. Therapy, therapy, therapy. So I think that we are like, you know, I think that we're in a generation now who is a lot more open to it than say our parents or our grandparents. I still haven't done it yet.
You know what?
I'm a little nervous. I will have to say, I'm a little nervous.
It is nerve-wracking. I think it's nerve-wracking because the vulnerability, the openness. But honestly, therapy is a beautiful soundboard.
Right.
You're able just to speak. Your therapist will help you understand your thoughts and guide you to where you want to be.
The tools.
Very much like physical training.
For your mind, girl. You know,
So,
someone told me this quote. Someone said that therapy for them was the only space that they felt like no one was asking anything of them. So like it was the only space where they weren't worried about anyone asking them for anything, anyone expecting anything for them having to show up in a way that was like, you know, whether that be from a friendship level or from a child level or from a parent level, whatever it is, and from a husband or wife level, right? Like relationship, they could just go in and it was a space just for them. Yeah. And when he broke it down like that, I was like, that's pretty dope. Because if you think about it, especially now as a parent, and you know this, every space you walk into, whether it's your relationship, parenthood, your relationship with your family, right? You as a child, everything you walk into, they expect something from you. You know, you have to give back into that relationship in order for it to be, you know, received. And so that was interesting. But also, I think it's very interesting that you've also chosen to keep your relationship very private on social. Yes. You know, you've kind of kept that to the chest. And is that intentional? Is there a reason behind that?
100% intentional. Yeah. Like, my brand isn't about my relationship, right? I don't think brands care if I'm in a relationship or not. They care if I am doing what I'm supposed to be doing, being a trainer, empowering, inspiring people to move, to be happy, to enjoy life. And so it to me personally, it was unprofessional. I felt it was very unprofessional. And it also allowed me to have privacy. Yeah. Right. And then that's another thing. You're pregnant, and what I do is physically active and showing my body and showing things. I was like, how do I keep privacy? Yeah. But also like share the biggest blessing and the biggest thing in my life at the same time. Yeah. Don't know how I did it, but I did it. Yeah. And then it gets to a point where where I'm at now, it's kind of like not that it's unprofessional, but it's actually more professional to share a little bit of it, right? To make it more personable. No different from like me sharing a picture if I'm at a family event in the past or whatever, right? I'm not making my relationship or my child my brand, but Ashley Joi is her life and what she enjoys, and so what brings me joy, what makes me happy, that's part of it.
Listen, I think there's an art to it. I'm not gonna lie. I think there's an art to it. I think that some people are oversharers. Personally, sometimes I'm like, I didn't need to know that. Didn't need to know that. You shared it to the world, and I think sometimes they do it because they know they'll get a reaction back,
or they don't have an outlet. Maybe they should go to therapy.
Maybe they need to be in some, mind physical therapy too. I don't know. So I do think some people are oversharers, but I do think there is, if you can hit the line, if you can hit the space, which I think is an art. Of where you show a little bit of yourself, where we still feel connected to you, but yet you do have that privacy and private moments for yourself that you have to have, I think, especially in this social media world. Because if you don't, then everything is up for scrutiny. And I think that's a dangerous place to be, especially in this day and age.
And also, like, I looked at it the same way, being in a relationship and having a child was, I am a single woman living in the city, right? I cannot share everything because I don't know who knows me.
That's right.
Right? Like, I don't know the followers. I don't know. And I started getting I wouldn't say weird messages, don't get me wrong.
Right.
But things that are a little alarming, right? I would walk my dog and then someone was like, oh, I think I just saw you. Okay, no. So, and not like a no, like I don't want to see the people that follow.
It just felt too close to home.
Yes.
Right.
And so I have to figure out how to push a little, right? At that gap.
Right.
And not a gap meaning I think I'm better or anything like that. Right. It's more of a personal thing. You know, totally a lot of people are able to just walk around and be. I'm not saying I'm super famous at all.
My biggest fear sometimes is like that my neighbors follow me. I'm like, oh my God, please. Like it's so awkward for me. Like if my neighbors follow me, because I feel like you almost like, because you live so close to me and you know like my every move. It's uncomfortable for me for you to know the other side of what you're saying.
Exactly.
It's weird. I don't know. I guess on social you know people are there and people are like looking in, but yet I don't know. You still feel like there's a wall up and there's not.
Yes.
There's not.
I
like,
mean,
that's the thing.
And that's one thing that I feel like before having a child, I made it really clear, like, this is what you're able to see. Right. And everything else. Like, you don't ask me if I'm in a relationship or whatever, you know, things like that.
But
and
I
thought
feel entitled to ask.
They do.
They feel a part of your life. They feel entitled to ask questions and to know, that's the thing. And especially through this journey, they just feel like they have the right to ask. And so that's the hard part.
I almost thought about like just showing up pregnant, like and having a baby. Like I thought about how can I do this?
Literally, just like this should have been your TikTok. Your reel should have just been like boop, baby, baby.
Exactly.
I
thought about doing it that way, but always look at your why. Right. And my why wasn't because like I was having a pregnancy that needed a lot of like medical attention, or I wasn't able to. It wasn't like that. I was just doing it because if I would have done it that way, was more like an intentional, like I don't want to share. Right. But again, what's my brand is sharing my life and sharing the joy and things like that. Right. The struggle aspect, I sprinkled it in, not a sprinkle because it wasn't real, but because I'm a human being and I still needed to process what was going on. Exactly. I never wanted to just lash out and then have to backtrack. Right. Like I needed to process what I was going through. So it's like, you may, if you really read, you could see or you can understand. But at the same time, like pregnancy, anyone who's been pregnant knows it's not all roses, right? And if a woman shares all the roses, don't bash her that she's not being transparent. She is being transparent. Right. Sometimes not everyone is going to bring out their phone, record themselves crying or record them, during that time. So it's like, I had all of the troubles that everyone may or may not have. Right. But at the same time, my brand was to spread joy. And I wanted people to be able to always come to my page and get some type of inspiration, some type of smile, some type of hope. Right. And that doesn't mean that I'm being fake or sharing less than,
yeah.
So
listen, I kind of struggle with that same thing. Like I try to be open, obviously on social. However, I do value a certain level of privacy, especially with my children and my husband and my relationships.
oh yeah.
But I try and give highlights. You know what I'm saying? Like I feel sometimes uncomfortable being on social and like crying or sharing like all the sad moments of my life or whatever. And I've had a few, like, my mom passed recently, and just different things that have been really hard moments and times. And I mean, taking months and months and months to like work through feelings and still working through certain things. And it's hard, but I think social for me has always been a place where I can kind of live out the good times in a way, and not focus on it. So I think it's to each his own on that, to be 100 with you. I think however you share is your way. And that's what, and look, let me tell y'all, that's why there's a follow and unfollow. Yeah. You know what I mean?
Sure,
like if I'm not sharing enough for you, or if, you feel like, you're not liking what I'm putting out, then that's why there's follow and unfollow. There's other people who are giving different things that people can like relate to.
It's also not like living up to anyone's expectations, right? Like you're not doing it for someone particular out there.
Right.
So like as long as you're doing what, again, brings you joy and what you want to do, then people gravitate to that.
That's right.
And it's really interesting how many people don't gravitate to the positive, right? They really, really love the negative, or they really love a change.
They love that drama. The drama out there. They really do. Okay, but speaking of happy, we're gonna focus on the joy in Ashley Joi's life.
Yes.
I want to talk to you about the labor, right? Because you chose to have an at-home water birth with your whole like squad.
Yeah. I knew I needed a bunch of people.
For real. So walk me through, like, I had a unmedicated birth with midwives and a doula, but I chose to have it in the hospital.
Okay.
So tell me why your choice was to have it at home. Like, what was that deciding factor? And was there anyone who like encouraged or like was like, let's do this? Like what?
I wouldn't say encouraged. I think that it was very natural for me to make this for a lot of reasons. I've had family and friends who have had their children at their homes or in a birthing center.
So you've seen it?
Yes.
Okay. So you were comfortable with it?
Yes. During the pandemic, since I was due in March of 2021, everything was still shut down. I didn't know what March 2022 was going to look like.
Right.
I did not want to, again, have an experience that wasn't what I wanted, and like that fear.
Right.
Also, women of color are not treated accordingly in hospitals.
Speak on it.
And I'm already in anger management, okay? Already a very aggressive person.
Was that a fear of yours going into it though? Was that like literally legit fear?
I wouldn't call it a fear, because I don't want fear to dictate people's decisions during childbirth, because it's a very vulnerable position.
Right.
It was a conscious decision that I made, that I wasn't going to put myself in that position.
Right.
And I knew I wanted a bunch of people, right? And in the hospital, they dictate who and what. And again, back to my assertiveness, I would have been like, you got me messed up. Like, my auntie, my mama, my everyone's coming in
Everyone's
here.
going to be
you know
here.
What I'm
That's
saying?
right.
So, yeah. And when I talked to my partner about it, he was silent.
Really?
He had no idea that we were going to make this decision.
Was he nervous?
He had it was so brand new to him. He had no idea. His sister had just had a baby. We actually had the same due date a year apart.
Really?
The year before.
Wow.
And his sister is a pediatrician. Okay. She had the baby in the hospital.
Oh, so
he just thought
his viewpoint is coming from a totally different perspective.
A 100.
Wow.
100. Wow. And I just was like, we were just laying in bed. It was like dark, so we can't see each other's faces. Yeah. I'm just like, I'm going to do it at home. I'm going to do this. Danae is going to be my doula. Oh, like all of this stuff.
Dropping bombs.
Was just quiet. And I just made it really, really clear. Like, I understand that we're doing this together, but it's my body, and I'm the person who's going to be giving birth.
Right. And so, he was supportive.
Ultimately, in a nutshell, it is my decision. I want you to support me. I will guide you and open up and ask all the questions, and you're going to be completely involved for you to understand what's going to happen.
Was he immediate, like, okay, babe, yes, this is your body, like, we're down for this? Or was he like, I have 52 questions right now?
He was both, right? Like, yes.
Okay.
But he is a person who needs to understand. Like, he's, I'm going to Google this. And now he works for Google, so it's really funny.
Yeah. That is kind of funny.
Yeah. I'm going to Google this. I'm going to learn this. He loves to learn. He loves, like, facts and data and all that. So, like, all of that helped him.
Right.
But the biggest thing that I said was, like, I don't feel like I will be heard and supported in a hospital.
Interesting.
Right? And the health of me that's important. And I think that alone,
did it have anything to do with also post-COVID, like with restriction of amount of people that could be in the room with you and like all that stuff?
I mean, it's a hospital, right? Yeah. Like, it's not you go there. The only people that really go there that are like, I guess you would say, quote unquote, healthy are us, the people who are laboring. Right. Other than that, that's you go there because you're sick. Right. So why would I want to be? I wanted to be home. I wanted to be comfortable. I wanted to feel my child. I wanted to experience everything. Yes. I didn't want anything taken away from me.
Okay, so but feelings of like not feeling like you would be seen and heard in a hospital setting. Yes. Why did you feel like that personally? Is it because of statistics you've read? Is it because stories you've heard? Is it just because of your personal experiences or family experiences, or what?
Yes, it was a combination.
Like, we all know the stats, right? Black maternal health in this country is astoundingly, just unbelievably an epidemic. Yes. I mean, I would characterize it as that. It is, the stats for Black women and Black mothers is so much higher of death than any other minority or race in America. So clearly we are stepping into a situation immediately as you become pregnant. You're stepping into a situation where you may not be seen and heard. They may not take your life as important. There's other things that are more important clearly than your life or surviving. Yes. So I totally understand that as a Black mother. But what was it for someone like you, right, who this is your first time pregnant? Is it something that you were reading or things that you were hearing? Because as a Black mother, I'm gonna be honest with you, first time I was pregnant, I didn't know anything about it. Gotcha. Didn't know anything about it. Now, mind you, I was pregnant, 10 years ago? So this is a very, it was a very, he was 10, I know. It's a very different time. I remember seeing you pregnant. It's wild, but social wasn't as big. Like, obviously I wasn't learning a lot of information through like that platform and through those spaces. So really it was what I heard on the news or articles I was read. And let me tell you, because they weren't talking about it. They weren't talking about it at all. No. And so it had to come from either my experience or someone who I've known. And so I wasn't thinking about it. What about now?
I think like I have a variety of people in my life and a variety of friends, you know, and like you got to have your hippie friends. Yeah. You got to have your friends that are like all natural and, you know, things like that. And it was a combination of just being open to conversations and understanding and knowing things that were out there, right? And then it's just kind of like a common knowledge. You think about it, right? Like, people, our grandparents, all pretty much birthed at home, labored at home, right? Like, the transition to the hospital is very recent and new. Yeah. And I would even say more in our community. Again, being like Black, like, we weren't allowed at hospitals. No. We were only allowed at certain hospitals or Black hospitals or this or that. Like, we idolize the home that Martin Luther King Jr. was born in. Right. People, think about that. He was born at home. Right. It's not that abnormal.
That's interesting. Yeah.
So it's like, it's normal. Right. Someone who isn't even alive till this day just because he was killed, he was actually born at home. Right. So it is not a long time ago that people used to have kids at home.
It's really not. Well, it's not a long time ago for any of it.
Exactly.
Like, so that's the thing. I mean, when you start really breaking it down like that, like, girl, it's not a long time ago that we were slaves. It's not a long time ago that we couldn't walk in the same door. It's not a long time ago
or
that
interracial
we were
marriage,
interracial
or
marriage,
same-sex marriage,
it's
or
not a long time
women
ago.
being able to work.
Rights. That's right. This is none of it is a long time ago.
It's recent. Yeah. And I think like I love to empower people to do what they want to do. Right. Like, I don't look down on anyone who's like, I want to be in the hospital. Good for you. I'm
Yeah,
so proud of
course,
you. You did exactly what you wanted to do.
No.
But don't take my right to be able to do what I want to do.
Correct.
And that's, I did that.
Every labor, motherhood journey is so different. It really is. And I think it really does come down to what makes you comfortable. When I started working with my doula for the first time, she was like, listen, lay it out, write it out. What is your birth plan? What is your wishes? What do you want? Put it on paper so everyone in the room knows what's happening and what's going on. Now, I think that I personally am a big believer in doulas. I believe that no matter how you birth, whether you are birthing through a midwife, whether you are birthing at home, whether you are birthing in a hospital, whether you are having a C-section, whether you're taking drugs, whatever it is.
I'm not taking drugs. She means like medication.
I'm sorry, medication. Not drugs, but you know what I mean. Drugs in the hospital. Whether you are having a medicated birth, let me be real, because you're right. Let me say this correctly, because I don't want it to be misinterpreted. So, however you choose to birth, I think a doula is like so important, just because I feel like it's your advocate. I feel like it really is the mother's advocate. But you had a whole squad. So tell me about your squad, because was it an all black team squad? It
actually was. Looking back, all black, all women. My cousin was my doula. So shout out to my cousin Danae.
Which Danae, look for her episode 2. It's coming soon.
Oh, nice. Yeah. Yes. So my big cousin was my doula, and I had 2 aunts there. My mom, my partner. I had a photographer who was a doula as well.
Oh, nice.
And there were 2 midwives and 1 midwife in training.
Wow.
So total, everyone including me, is 10 people.
Wow.
And you wouldn't have, I didn't feel, and that's all that matters, is I didn't feel claustrophobic. I didn't feel suffocated. I felt it was so natural to lean on different people in my life that I've known for different points.
Right.
And never felt alone.
Yes.
My partner was like super, super amazing. Always there. There was times, I guess, he made pizza for everyone.
Wow.
I didn't even realize he was gone because I had so many people
love.
there.
Yeah.
That like, if he was doing that, then it was Danae, or it was my auntie Susie, which is also Danae's mom.
Wow.
Yeah. And my aunt Susie is on my dad's side, and so she was asked to be there to kind of represent my father's side of the family.
I love that.
And Danae was my cousin and my doula, so it was like professional
and
family.
You're right.
It was supposed to be slightly smaller, but because my labor happened the way that it did, my mom and my Aunt Maria were supposed to come after the baby was born, because I visioned, because, before you have a kid, you think like everything what's supposed to happen. So I was like, I think I need them to be bushy-eyed and ready to go once the baby's here. Right. I don't want to make them go through the labor and then have to take care of me.
Exactly.
Well, they ended up showing up like right after my water broke. Not unexpectedly, but like no one knew my water was going to break.
Yeah.
And my contractions had stopped at like 10 a.m. They went from like 3:30 a.m. to 10 a.m. and they stopped.
Wow.
And I just told everyone like, all right, false alarm. Like, and they live hours away in Apple Valley.
Yeah.
So you're talking about a 2-hour drive.
Yeah.
Luckily, my aunt was like, let's just get down to LA. Yeah. Because even if she doesn't want us to be there, we go to a hotel, you know, whatever.
Right.
So literally when they walked through that door, I was like, thank God.
Wow.
Because water had already broke. Contractions were already 4 minutes apart.
Wow.
Booming.
Yeah.
And Obi was trying to get everything together.
Obi, your partner. Yeah.
Yeah.
Wow.
Was trying to like do the text thread and all this other stuff. So
make sure everybody knows what's happening.
Exactly. And to get here.
Yeah.
Because as soon as my water broke, I started throwing up. And so it was instantly my body was like, no, we're doing this.
This is happening.
This is not like, and it's so funny. You do all the education and stuff like that. They're like, water breaking doesn't mean that labor's gonna happen. So we were like all super chill.
Yeah.
Like, I was like all excited, like, oh my God, my water broke. I'm like almost crying, and all of a sudden like
Yes,
Like,
body is like, weird, this is happening.
It was full on.
Yeah.
And I remember telling Obi, like, water breaks, it can be up to 24 hours.
Right.
All this stuff.
All them stats and goes out the window. Like, all those facts.
It's good to know.
Yeah,
it's good to be educated and and to understand your body. That's the one thing that I will have to encourage women. Do not be afraid to understand your body. Do not be afraid to understand what is going on.
Right.
I read the big book of birth. And physiologically, I needed to know what was happening.
Right.
As an athlete, I need to be in tune and understand what's happening with my body.
Right.
Not just randomly, contractions.
Right.
No. What is a contraction doing?
And
how is it making the baby come down? What do I need to do?
Did you feel like it was important for your partner to also know that information?
No.
Okay.
No, he didn't read. He read books for himself, like what he felt like he needed.
Right.
Labor is all me.
I mean, yeah. Well, I mean, yes, I agree. But let me tell you, I mean, for me, I felt like Issa was a big part of my labor process.
Yes.
Like, it was like Issa, I remember there came a point where I was trying to push and I couldn't, like, I wasn't pushing in the right spot or something. And I could feel everything.
Yeah.
But Issa, like, took a look and he was like, no, you got to push under the bone, Lizzy, or something. And I was like,
good.
And he's like, he knew my body so well.
Which kid though?
This was this was definitely Nima, number one.
Okay,
this
that's
was first
amazing.
kid. This was
Shout
first
out.
kid. Because he looked and he like knew my body so well that he was like, no, Lizzy, you have to like, the way I was pushing. And so him saying that, literally she was out in like 3 more pushes. But it was interesting that he stepped in, right? Because I don't know. I just felt like, he was my partner and he just knew something that he saw something that I couldn't see.
Well, my partner was like terrified to like look, right? So that part wasn't gonna come from him. He actually did look because he was surrounded by family and my aunt was like, you should do that.
Right.
So it was like, everyone's like, he has so much hair. He has so much hair and he wanted to, look. So I would have to say my partner was more emotionally there for me, by reminding me, and we talked about it. He reminded me of kind of like the hope in the future of why I was doing what I was doing.
Right. Right.
And so there's some really beautiful intimate pictures of us, like even kissing, him holding my hand.
Right.
Just those touches.
Those moments. Yeah.
Really, really helped. And the more physical, well, I would have to say like my midwife was the one who was like, you need to push differently. And I think we all start pushing a certain way,
of course, that
we think, because you
don't
never
know till
felt it before.
Yeah, exactly. And you don't know till you know. Did you ever get to a point in labor, because this happened to me, but did you ever get a point to labor where you were like, wait a minute, why am I doing this? Hold on, why did I choose this? Hold on.
I was in the water and I am like half kneeling and I'm like stretching. I'm doing all from the outside. I'm like,
yes.
I'm like,
super
she's in it. In my head, I was like, what in the world? Yes. Oh my God, you could go to the hospital. Let's just do C-section. Let's just da-da-da. Like literally all of those things. But I know the power of like your word and your tongue.
That's right.
And so outwardly, I was like, I'm in control of my body.
Oh, the mantra, yes.
Yes, like this is not pain. It is just a wave of intensity. Like I just was like saying all of this stuff, and I'm just like, wow.
Yes.
There's no pause button.
No,
like,
there's no pause. There's no break. Same happened to me. I was in the middle of it, and I was like, I looked at Issa and I said, why would you let me do this? What? He was like, but it was your choice. I was like, wait. I don't understand. Why would you even think that this was smart? This was stupid, Issa. This was so stupid. And I was like looking at him, and I was dead serious too. I was like, I blame you. And like, I was just like, but in my mantra the entire time, once I got into it, once I was like, all right, there's no going back. Because here's a point where you can't go back. Like you can't, there's no more, no more option for medication. I was about to say drugs. There's no more option for like, C-section, whatever. Like there's no more option. You're in this. Yeah, like this is what you've committed to. Baby's coming. Mm-hmm. And I remember saying my mantra the entire time was, it cannot last forever.
Oh no, it
cannot last forever. Nothing in life can last forever. Mm-hmm. So this moment is a moment in time. It cannot last forever. Yeah. But I feel like, every woman has her thing, right? Whatever it is that she's repeating in her head over and over, that was mine.
And I got it from listening to other birth stories, right? A woman described the contraction as not painful, but as a sensation. And so I instantly, like, in my head, I'm like, ow, 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 ow. And I'm like, no, sensation. It's just it's really intense. It is almost like someone is just like, imagine you're stuck in between a door and someone's just like pushing the door. It's just like really intense at that moment, and then it goes away.
Yeah.
And I even use a skill from anger management to get through contractions. It's a one to be present.
Okay.
Because as your mind starts going through, what the fuck am I doing? I don't want to do this. I'm scared, or I'm all of those stuff.
Right.
You have to come back and center.
Right.
Like, in the movies when they slap a person, they're like, get focused
Focus.
right here.
Right.
You have to do that to yourself. It's so intense. And it's so cool how, honestly, to me, how intense it is.
Yeah.
Because your body is like revving up, and then I look at everyone and everyone's just chilling.
Yeah.
And I'm over here like, yeah. I got the whole hot flashes thing. I'm sweating. It's coming off my nose.
Yes.
And all of a sudden I'm like, cold, like shaking.
Right.
And everyone's just like looking at me.
Yep. That's
and
it.
I'm like, I remember at one point I was like, I can't look at these people because they're just looking at me.
Yes.
And it's going to make me. And so I just went inward. And the technique that I used was 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. And it's your senses.
Okay.
So you can use 5 things that I can see in the room, 4 things that you can hear, 3 things that you can smell, 2 things that you can touch.
Wow.
And 1 thing that you can, what's the other senses?
Smell, touch, hear.
Yeah, you know what it is, right? So that's what it was. I can't think of it right now.
I like that though. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1.
Yes, and I used it, and
Taste.
Taste. I distinctively remember when I did. I was in the water, and I was in the water for about 2 hours, and obviously, like, it got intense, and that's how I was able to come back, because in the water was when I was like, what are you doing? Why are you doing this? Blah, 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 all that thing.
Questioning all your decisions in life.
Everything.
Yeah.
And so, and it was just really cool to have everyone there.
Yeah.
Again, my support system.
I think that is dope though. I mean, I think that, having the people who love you as well as who are helping you, right, in the process. It sounds like you had the ultimate birth squad. And I think anyone with the resources to do so, I think it's a phenomenal gift, right? To be given, especially during that monumental shift and like moment in your life.
Super, super big blessing. And it was even more significant because I went into labor technically Sunday morning or Monday morning. And the contractions stopping at 10 a.m. And not coming back until about 2 was a big gap. And I thank my son for that gap, because he ultimately was born on my late grandmother's birthday.
That's right.
And as I'm laboring, obviously you want the baby like to come out.
Right.
And you're not thinking, you don't care about the day and all those significant things. I just knew it was so close to my grandmother's birthday, and I wasn't aware of the time. Every once in a while I would look at my partner's watch because he had his Apple Watch on. Yeah. I remember it was like 5, it was 7, it was 10. I'm like, oh my God, I cannot believe this is going on. And then when I saw like 11:30, I was like, oh, like he may be born, but I didn't like do anything to like stop it, right? But what was so cool was labor or pushing super, like, I mean, again, God, the baby, everything meant to be. Wow. Started the active. I remember I was on the birthing stool and I felt super, super uncomfortable. And the beauty about being in my home is I didn't have to sit. I didn't have to stay there.
Nope.
Right? That's not where I wanted to be.
Right.
And that's when they were like, I felt defeated. I looked at my midwife and was like, I don't know what else to do.
I'm done.
And I forget when you get to that point, that means that it's there,
coming,
right? I'm like, am I at mile 20?
Yeah.
Is this 26?
Yes.
Is this 17? I need to mentally know, like,
No.
as an athlete, like, I'm good. Like,
Exactly.
if you tell me I have X
Give
amount
me an
more.
ending goal.
Exactly.
That's right. Yeah.
And right at midnight is when everything started going. Like,
and
revving.
so he was born, DJ was born when?
12:39.
12:39.
12:39 on March 15th. And I pushed for 30 minutes.
Wow.
So you're, like, it's literally like when midnight came was when everything like started
Shifted.
going. My auntie Susie, that's her mom's birthday, literally started crying when she realized that he was going to be born at, on the 15th.
Yeah.
And so it was like so beautiful. And beautiful. I haven't really shared my birth story. Like I wanted to share it in my own like way. And because it was absolutely beautiful and perfect. Yeah. And I think I have a lot of empathy for women who don't get to experience it the way that I did.
Right.
And I think that I'm like, I don't want to come across as like, look at my story or this or that.
I think, no. I think you have to, if you feel so inclined to share, right? Yes. Because it is a personal moment. But if you feel so inclined to share, it's a story of beauty. And I think that those stories aren't shared enough. We hear a lot of stories of how it can go wrong and how, not everything is in place and how women don't have, some of the resources needed to have a healthy labor, right? Yeah. But to hear this story of all the different pieces and in fact, and just even just him being born on your grandmother's birthday, like, wow, like you have to share those stories because people deserve to hear the beautiful stories too. And that's it's a beautiful story.
It was super magical. Yeah. And I feel like sharing it also makes it the past, right? Yeah. Like when you hold on to it like over and over again, like having a photographer wasn't a over the top thing. It wasn't for Instagram. It was because as a woman who's laboring, you're so inward that you don't see everything that's going on. No. You don't remember those moments. So I would 100% encourage someone to have someone dedicated or designated for that.
Yeah, I agree. To capture it.
Yes.
Yeah.
It doesn't have to be technically professional. You can have someone just with an iPhone. You though,
even like my kids now, they can't wait to sit back and look at, like Nima, she will scour through my phone and just look at old videos and old pictures of her as a baby or like her siblings as kids, like as babies. She just loves it. And I think that something inside of us just loves to see how we were, creator, how we were born, how like our journey. Yeah. And so even for DJ himself, it's going to be wonderful for him to just look back and be like, oh, this is so cool. Like this is how my mom chose to do it and how my dad was there to support and blah, 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 and my family and surrounded by
family
love.
was there.
Yeah,
exactly.
So now we're in motherhood.
Yes.
We are in motherhood.
Yeah.
It is new. It is fresh. I see it all over you. You know what I mean? Like you in that new mamahood. So like how has, I don't know. I never like to say the juggle because I don't think that anyone asks fathers how the juggle is. I don't think anyone ever asks men like, how are you doing it all? Like anything like that. But have you felt like there's been challenges, now being a new mom and having your career and like your life and like what you were used to before?
Oh my gosh. I was like, what am I doing? Like, this is not, I don't want to do this anymore.
Yeah.
I'm going to leave my home to train someone else. I'd rather be here with my child.
Yes.
I don't need a post. I'm like, it literally, I fought it. I fought it. It made me question what I was doing, who I am, and I honestly want to make a huge pivot. Very similar, I guess, like idolizing what you're doing and realizing the core of me is still about moving, doing what you love, joy, and stuff like that. But because now my life is different, it needs to shift as well.
Right.
And I talked to my partner about it. I knew something was going to happen before having him, but he encouraged me and was like, you need to take all the time. There's no rush for you to like go back to work, like be with our son, things like that. And
100%, yeah,
exactly. And I mean, I'm blessed to have that support, and I am dabbling back into work mainly for myself because you do need that break, and that identity, like getting back to yourself.
Right.
But for the most part, the challenge, I would say, like in the newborn phase, really, really hit around like week 5.
Yeah.
Week 5 was like,
Why so? Why week 5?
I mean, I think at that point you're like a month into not sleeping.
Yep.
Throughout the whole night.
So exhaustion has like really kicked in.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And now you understand why it's a form of like punishment and torture. Because it is truly like you can't function, you can't think correctly.
Right.
You're short with it, you're snapping, you're
Right.
this, you're that. Like, and I've also never had to fully recover physically the way that I recovered from my vaginal birth. Like questioning if I could stand up.
Right.
Going to the bathroom,
Mm-hmm.
going like urinating, pooping,
The things that you took
everything,
for granted before.
like everything. Like I have never like had an experience like that,
Right.
where I'm like, you know, I guess in a sense that vulnerable or that needed to be taken care of.
Right.
You know, I've strained a hamstring and had to, you know, help me up or whatever, but everything else functioned,
Right.
you know, and worked, that type of thing.
This athlete mentality.
Telling
comes
you,
back to
it is like it was crazy. And then it's new, right? You've
new.
never been a mom. But I think I love the beauty of our natural instincts.
Right.
That I would encourage a lot of moms not to question.
Yeah.
If you feel like, I mean, even right now my boobs are like they're dropping. And if I were to text my Manny right now and be like, "Are you feeding him?"
Yes.
Like I'm pretty sure it would be
Yeah.
like in sync. Don't question it. Like if you feel like your kid is fussy because they want to go to sleep or their diaper or because they want to be next to you or because that person's energy is no good and you need to just get your child back into your presence.
Yeah.
Do it.
I agree.
Like
I agree.
I
Don't
think-
fight your instincts.
Yeah, but because on the other end there are so many books and there are so many how-tos and there's so many this that you question everything.
I mean, I wasn't a huge, like, I definitely read up on things just so I could be knowledgeable.
Mm-hmm.
But for me, I always felt like, I don't know. I just felt like I know my kid. Like, I don't know. I just always had this intuition of like, you know, if I don't know it, then obviously I would ask a doctor or whatever it is. But I always felt like if something was wrong, I would catch it. Like, I don't know. I don't know. Maybe it's just, I don't know. I just wasn't big on like, I was big on reading to know things, but I wasn't big on taking it as Bible, if that makes any sense. Like,
I hear you.
You know, I just think there's something really powerful about a mother's intuition. And I think that us as mothers, once you have it, like once you lean into it, it's just there.
Yeah.
It's just there.
Yeah.
You know?
I think like it's a fun and it's such a beautiful moment. Like I can't stress enough that all I ever wanted to be was a mom.
Yeah.
You know, like
Yeah.
it, like I try to tell people all the time, like, yeah, I was thriving to be like the top of the chain or whatever because like it was just myself. I hadn't found my partner. I hadn't found my other half. I hadn't like all of that hadn't gone into place. So like, yes, me as an individual, that's where I wanted to go.
Right.
But me now with a whole like squad and a family, it's like, okay, you know, like I can get there back again if it's part of it. But like life is just really precious.
Yeah.
And it's, I think seeing and giving life,
Mm-hmm.
I realized how precious and that like, honestly, I realized like that I was going to die.
Yeah.
That's
Yeah.
when I gave birth and saw him, I realized that I am actually going to die.
You are the second mother who I have talked to who has said that giving birth reminded them of the life cycle.
Yes.
Like that we live and we die.
Yeah.
We're born and then we die. For me, it was death. Like I know that's like for me it was death. Like
When you saw it.
when I saw death, I was like, oh wow, life is so precious.
Yep.
It wasn't necessarily life for like giving life for me. Or
It was
whatever.
birth. Like
That's interesting.
I've had, you know, friends pass. I've seen family members' last breath and all that other stuff, but you know it's gonna happen, but you see it in a distance. Like you're like, oh, that's them, or that's like later in life, or
that's
whatever.
over there.
But this is when I realized that I was going to die.
Wow.
Because I finally, I guess in a sense, gave life.
Wow.
And so like the full cycle is like I've given life and then I will die.
Right.
Not like I'm saying I'm gonna die like
No,
early or
but like
like
that's
that,
a part of the process. Like that's
Yes.
a part of the evolution of us as humans.
Yeah. And
Wow.
I like looked at him and was just like, wow, like I want to be here as long as I can. And then my mom being there, right? Like she gave birth to me and realizing like I wouldn't say like how close she is to death, but like how much closer, right? Like you see
Right.
life happen
Yeah.
and you hope and pray like you're 80, 90 years away
That's
from,
right.
from
That's
death,
right.
right?
Right.
And then you look at my mom who's going to be like 70 and you're
Right.
like, oh, wow, you're closer
To
that type of
yeah.
thing. Like, I'm in the middle. He's just starting and she's closer towards the end.
Interesting.
And to see that in one room at that given moment, to be born on my grandmother's birthday. So like now it's like that day
yeah.
is again a celebrated day.
Right.
Right?
Of
It's not
course.
like, okay, you know, grandma's birthday or whatever. Yeah, it's still grandma's birthday, but it's DJ's birthday
Yes, that's
as well.
right. So now we're celebrating life as
Yes.
well as
Yeah.
someone who has lived life.
And life is death and death is life.
Right.
And like it just it hit
Full
me like
circle.
it hit me crazy.
That's the crazy part I will say of motherhood. It hits you full circle.
Yeah.
It really does. I could talk to you for hours. I really could. I mean, I really could. I feel like we should do a part 2.
Okay.
I feel like
appreciate
we
that.
should like do a part 2 on the whole other side of the journey because I feel
Yeah.
like we only captured such a small part of like even who you are.
Yeah, I mean, I
it's-
appreciate it because I haven't really expressed it, and I was pretty
Yeah.
nervous about, you know, going into it because
Really?
yeah, I mean, I've been in, I would say more in my bubble,
Yeah.
you know, like having
Yeah.
a 4.5 month old,
It's all so fresh.
it's
It's
very,
all
very
so fresh. I mean,
yeah.
but understand, like, I think you have a really good viewpoint on the journey.
Mhm.
Like, dude, you know what I mean? Follow your instincts. You got it all laid out, you know? And I think that you are manifesting such beauty and positivity in the world and in your life that it's all good stuff. Like,
Yeah.
you know, I wouldn't be nervous about 1 ounce of it for you. I really wouldn't. I just see it. And I think
Yeah.
that, you know, even thus far, I mean, you're a wonderful mother and
Thank
you're
you.
strong in mind, spirit, body, faith.
Mhm.
And I think that you have it all, you know, going for you. And you got a tribe now. You got people to like, you know what I'm saying, tap
Yeah.
into. And I'm one of those people. And so I thank you for being here.
Thank
I
you.
thank you for being part of the Cool Mom crew and being on the Cool Mom Code podcast. Everyone, check
appreciate
out
it.
Ashley Joi. Follow her on Instagram. Follow her journey. Through fitness, through motherhood, and through everything that she's embarking on next. Stay tuned. Stay tuned.
It's Ashley Joi, Ashley with the Y and Joy with an I.
And don't worry, we're going to have it all in the caption and comments below. Don't you worry. All right, Ashley.
Thank you
I
so
love you.
much.
I thank you
Love you
for
too.
being here.
Thank you.